Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Stevens. I'm one of the co-directors of Building Week. This is our third annual SBW, and we're super excited to be kicking off our second week of SBW 2020. So, and thank you to Julie and everybody who's participating in Small But Mighty today. It's pretty exciting. This year we have 26 events, 14 during this second week. Our events include educational presentations, panels, virtual open houses, and all the events will ultimately be available on demand. Most of the events are free, and a handful offer continuing education credits. The full schedule of events is available on our website at sustainablebuildingweek.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter, get to know more about SBW. Some of what you'll learn while you're on the website is that SBW was created to provide a platform for Portland's design and construction communities to come together and foster collaboration in an effort to keep Portland green. Our mission ultimately is to continue to evolve Portland's legacy as a leader in sustainability practices. Julie, if you could go to the top sponsors slide. Collaborating organizations, great, thank you.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
This is going to be a learning curve for me. Does that work? Okay. That's
perfect, thank you. Obviously, none of this would be possible without strong partnership of our collaborators, community partners, and most definitely our sponsors. This year, our top sponsors are, you'll see here on the screen, Malum, Henneberry Eddy Architects, Holst, Bora, PAE, NBI, Sustainable Northwest Wood, PGE, Associated Builders and Contractors, Pacific Northwest, Green Hammer Design Build, Project Pivot, E-Terriers, Brightworks, and hopefully I'm not missing any. We had some latecomers, so if I missed you, I apologize. And thank you to everybody for all your support. And thanks again to you, Julie, and Small But Mighty for hosting this event. Again, take a look at the upcoming events, tell your friends, colleagues, neighbors. There's bound to be something for everyone. So thanks, Julie. Appreciate the time.
Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Eric, who is our MC for the day. So, Eric, where are you?
I'm right here.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. First of all, thanks to Aaron for this. Thanks to Julie, who actually does all of the work to put this thing together every year. This is our third year doing this, and it's great to see so many friends' names in the list and familiar names in the list. I wish we could all be together. I'm sorry we can't all be in some room at the AIA eating hors d'oeuvres and all that other business. You'll just have to eat your hors d'oeuvres at home, and I microwave them. I don't know, however you do it, but you know, you'll figure it out. As I said, this is the third year doing this, and it really, to me, is part of what sustainable SBW is all about, because it really showcases the abundance of talent and enthusiasm we have here in Portland and in the Pacific Northwest. So normally it's my favorite event of the year, and now, of course, I'm on this cold Zoom call stuck in my house, but hopefully we can get some of that enthusiasm going as well. As you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll moderate them and we'll get to them towards the end. So don't be shy. As you think of them, put them there. You'll forget them if you don't do it. Trust me, I know what that's like. You think of something good and then, oh, I'll remember, and then you don't remember. So don't do that. Just put it in the chat. Keep it easy. You can have multiple questions if you want. Enthusiasm is encouraged, especially because we're behind this wall of virtual, screens here. Otherwise, I got the best job on the planet this morning because I just get to introduce a bunch of smart people. So first up is Ozzy Gonzalez with P3 Consulting. Ozzy is owner and founder of P3, which is a solar consulting practice dedicated to helping clients reach their social and environmental sustainability goals. That sounds great. Ozzy's professional background spans environmental sciences and architecture, and he has over 15 years of experience in the design and construction industry. When I first met him, he was at, where was he? AECOM, I guess, at that point. And Ozzy's going to talk about what he's learned over his career about delivering high-performance projects finding the next innovations in sustainability, and scaling up sustainability strategies to make the large-scale impacts the world really needs. His unique approach to sustainability weaves social and environmental values into one process and makes reaching new heights an exciting process for them. Wow, I'm going to steal that. By the way, just as a weird aside, because it's Portland, Ozzy also happened to run for governor this year, and I voted for you. But,
Mayor.
Mayor, sorry, mayor, not governor. Jeez, that's a whole other. Now we're gonna get letters. No, he ran for mayor. Jeez, he ran for mayor, and that was just for me fascinating to watch. And I still think he's going to be mayor someday at some point of something. So please help me welcome Ozzy Gonzalez.
Hello, everybody. My name is Ozzy Gonzalez, and I am the owner and founder of P3 Consulting Associates. I started this company about a year ago in order to be able to provide design support, technical assistance, and project development services to the market. I've been in the industry for over 15 years, and I have worked as a sustainability professional, as an equity professional, and P3 Consulting was my brainchild in order to be able to expand my services and, frankly, to be able to work on projects even when clients weren't asking me directly for them. So I'm expanding into an arm of development work so that new projects can be created with myself and partners. And together, we're all trying to address the notion of sustainability beyond green building. I began my work in sustainability a long time ago when I started pursuing environmental science under the premise that I knew what we were currently doing was unsustainable. The world we've created, the standard of living, policies, institutions, all of those things were done under the premise that we lived on a planet with infinite resources. But we all know that is not the case today. It never was the case. But today, we know better than ever that our planet is struggling to sustain us. We are impacting the life support systems negatively, and we never ever created our lifestyle and our standard of living in a way that was designed to last. We need to change all of those things. And so my work in P3 Consulting stems directly from that. Now, because P3 is a company that is my own, so much of the work that I do through it is because of who I am as a person. So I'd like to explain a little bit about my background before I tell you about the services I provide, so that all of this makes a little more sense. I consider myself an urban ecologist. Now, I don't hear that term used very often, even in Portland, Oregon, where I call home. But it is a term that I take very seriously to describe the way in which I approach my practice. I have a background in environmental science and architecture. I've been in the architectural profession for over 15 years. Most of my work stemmed from green buildings and sustainable design. And over time, I've expanded it into equity, diversity, and inclusion services. So there's been a trajectory of environmental sustainability towards social sustainability, all under the premise that we need to address the triple bottom line. And my practice as an urban ecologist is actually to recognize that our global economy and the cities that we inhabit and the way in which society functions in those cities are all intertwined. And we need to create urban ecosystems that cultivate healthy human beings. And so I've applied my credentials, my background in all of my services to this end. And so what you're going to see in a little bit is a little of the work I've done as a sustainability director for CH2M Hill, a large A&E firm that I worked with around the world, and some of the work that I did most recently with Balfour Beatty, a construction company, where I served as their diversity director. And all of these things are helping companies improve their corporate sustainability programs and improve their triple bottom line. And so the examples that I'm going to bring are work that I did not do entirely through P3 because it's so new, but it does show you examples of the way in which I can help address the needs of projects. Workforce development, subcontractor inclusion are two of the ways in which I've helped most recently on projects that are trying to address social sustainability, inclusion work. And I've also helped as a sustainability practitioner on helping establish governance agreements, whether it's intergovernmental agreements or public-private partnerships, those types of structures that help multiple stakeholders share investments, share risk, and share the rewards of eco-district level sustainability or district scale sustainability. However you want to handle that, sometimes making governance work is critical. So I've helped with that, as well as helping companies create and manage their corporate sustainability program. There's many entities out there that have global net zero water, net zero carbon goals, and they depend on practitioners such as myself to help them implement those practices and to monitor them so that they know how well they're tracking. Now, I've got 3 sets of services I'd like to introduce to you that P3 is involved with. The first one is more traditionally familiar, I think, for this crowd, sustainable design services. Many of you provide these sorts of things, eco charrettes and community engagement forums, and green building certification. I have served as a lead project administrator for over 10 million square feet of LEED certified space. I helped certify the nation's first Envision program or project, and I've been involved with certification programs around the world. So you're hard pressed to find one I have not interacted with, no matter how obscure. And so I've been able to help with certifications of programs, help clients select which certification might be the most apropos for them, as well as the day-to-day management of projects. If you want to do integrated project delivery, lean project delivery, those are processes that I'm familiar with. I've helped set up the rooms, help set the agendas, help set the structure of meetings so that we're working on lean or IPD kinds of processes. These are really fun and exciting project types if you've never worked on them. And if you have, you know how critical it is to create the right work environment in the spaces where people are interacting, so that everyone feels safe to go outside of their discipline and have a dialogue with others. Those are the things that I help work out. And then, of course, along the process, whether it's goal setting, baselining, or understanding if something is insurable or legal for those codes where we're trying to build something new, those are the kinds of things that I help so that we can move the needle on a policy that might need to shift or any sort of aspect of making a project reach that next level of sustainability. Resilience is an extension of sustainability, but resilience looks at a very broader set of pieces of a project, and they recognize that any individual project is part of a global supply chain. And so I look at my resiliency planning services as to what is the most likely thing that's going to derail your operations. That's my vulnerability analysis, whether it's your material supply chain, your labor resource, or any other sort of operational issue. There's many ways that your company can get derailed. And so vulnerability analysis is something I help do for clients. I've also helped with the getting to zero planning process and focusing on the human aspect specifically. So staff and workforce development, as well as operational excellence, can include things like succession planning or creating career exploration opportunities so that young folks can go to a job site and experience IPD or look at a pool planning room, go to a well-certified facility and see what are the kinds of amenities that make it a well-certified facility. Those sorts of things can inspire future leaders of tomorrow with that little grain of inspiration to be able to get them interested in our profession. So I help bring young folks to job sites so that they can become interested in the construction industry. And I help bring architects, engineers, designers closer to school groups to show them the pathway and the skill set that makes you as a professional flourish. So these are things that I can do to help bridge the gap of the school to career pipeline that frankly needs a little bit of help. Now, going a little further into the human aspect, I also help with JEDI support services. Now, I'm referring to justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And One of the things I do is help my clients stay up to speed on the jargon. This is a growing space and it's affecting every industry worldwide. Equity work is very important work and requires safe places for people to have that vulnerable, introspective moment where they go through personal growth. This is work that I've been doing with companies and on job sites, and it takes many forms, from helping create apprenticeship and mentoring programs to helping institute subcontractor inclusion, where you do business in the communities where you serve and you help grow those businesses in those communities so that they can help up their game for the projects that you're delivering. If you're going to provide the very first net zero building in a city and you depend on the community to maintain that net zero building, then investing in that community to be able to know the systems and work on that project is a huge investment, but it requires a little bit of forethought. So that's what I help navigate in the JEDI support services. And this takes on many forms. Community engagement is a critical piece these days for the community benefit component. And so those are the ways in which I help bring green infrastructure in cities and make it a success for everyone. And all of this stuff helps the local economies and helps move the needle on global industries to make them more environmentally and socially sustainable. So when you put all this together, I work on sustainability across the board, whether we're talking about carbon, electricity, water, or human capital. The job that I take most seriously is that I am here to help you optimize your resources so that you have not only the most value from them today, but lasting value into the future. All of this comes, again, from my personal mission, which is what has inspired me to create P3 in the first place. I know that this is not designed to last, and so I want to change that. And my personal mission is to create a global human standard of living that is designed intentionally to raise happy, healthy, whole human beings, and to do that indefinitely. That has to be done by intention. It's not going to happen on accident. And I believe it's something not only achievable and worth doing, but it's something I intend on fighting every day until my last breath to help achieve. And if there's anything worth trying to do, it's something like creating a sustainable world. So I appreciate your time, your attention, and the opportunity to share a little bit about myself, a little bit about what I'm doing with P3. And even if you don't have a project yet, I am in a position to help address the needs of projects and create projects. So reach out. You got my contact information right here on the slide. Give me a call, drop me an email. Let me know how we can work together to bring triple bottom line results to your projects. Have a great day. Thank you.
Next up, we have Jennifer Levy with Cascade Environmental Solutions. With over 15 years of environmental consulting and engineering experience in Oregon, Washington, Montana, and California, Jennifer is in the business of providing professional engineered solutions for a broad range of public and private clients. Decades of experience give her a great understanding of the environmental issues facing our industry, property developers and owners, protecting property acquisitions, forest land, ports, and harbors. From remediation and cleanup to petroleum contaminated soil excavation and soil vapor extraction, she can assist with the control media management plans for excavation and construction. I also heard she's a master recycler. That's in quotes on her bio. With over 500 hours logged. That's a lot of time wading through cans. So please help me welcome Jennifer Levy.
Hi, this is Jennifer Levy. I'm the owner and founder of Cascade Environmental Solutions. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about sustainability in environmental services today. I'm going to just give you a brief overview of what environmental consulting means, because a lot of people don't know, and then how we practice sustainability in our day-to-day projects and our overall company approach. I do have a law degree. My background is also in environmental and civil engineering. After law school, I decided to stick with engineering made a lot more sense to me, and I enjoy it a lot more. So we are a certified woman-owned firm located here in Portland, Oregon. We do work all over the Pacific Northwest, and I can actually work in any state for most of what we do. Environmental consulting, what is that? That is looking at the historical and or current risk associated with a property for a commercial property transaction. So if Larry wants to go out and buy a industrial piece of property, what was that property? What was it 20 years ago? What was it 80 years ago? What was it since it has been built? Was it a farm at one time because there could have been pesticides used on it? And if based on that historical and or current use and or future use, if there's any risk associated with those uses that could affect the overall value of the property. Banks need that to make sure this came out to protect banks and or property owners from any historical property uses that could have affect the value of the property. We work with all kinds of different clients, public, private. We have a couple of City of Portland projects, contracts. We work with developers, attorneys, insurance. We're going to talk first about what a phase 1 is, then what we do next in a phase 2, the sustainability associated with each of those stages, and then ultimately how we clean up a site. I've got a brief case study at the end so you can see what this looks like in day-to-day use. Phase 1, ESA. This is, like I said, where you go out and look at the historical risk of the property and what it used to be, and if that caused any issues to human health or the environment. We do a site visit. We order all the database and historical records from the county, the city government, the local government, the state, anybody that we can. We interview anybody associated with the project historically that we can talk about. We're overall looking for RECs. A REC is recognized environmental condition, i.e. the gas station example, the tanks in the ground, that would be considered a REC because we don't know if they had leaked or not. This is what we don't look for in a phase 1. We don't look at asbestos or lead, but if based on the age of the building, it's 1972, 1976, we will note that based on the age of the building, you could have asbestos lead issues. And we will also, if we see anything during the site visit, we will put that in the report, even though it's not necessarily required. Phase 2, you go out after you complete the phase 1, you found out that yes, in fact, it used to be a dry cleaner. The next step is to go out and collect samples. We dig through the concrete or pavement or the structure and we collect soil and groundwater and vapor samples to see if that historical use has caused any contamination in any of that media. This is where it's really important to make sure that we're using sustainable practices and we're minimizing our risk. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. This is a drill rig that you see in this next picture on the right. This is what we're collecting. We're collecting soil samples here to see if there's any issues. This is what actually comes down to the ground. That is a soil sample in that jar right in front that will then get sent to the lab to analyze for different contaminants based on what we know about the property. This is collecting groundwater sample. That's a tube right there to the right of that big blue box, which is a pump. So we're pumping water out of the ground, which will also get put in jars and sent to the lab. At the end of a phase 2, sometimes we have enough information, we can get site closure, which I'll talk about in a second. Sometimes it leads to additional investigations because we need more information about the site. Phase 3, the final phase of a project. This is where we either remediate and or clean up the site. Remediation includes lots of times removing the problem, if it's tanks, if it's contaminated soil, putting in groundwater monitoring wells, making sure that there aren't any issues because we've monitored over time. Ultimately, what, like you said earlier, we want to know further action status for the site. In Oregon DEQ, for example, would issue a no further action saying that literally the site is based on all the information that we know to date, the problem has been either eliminated or has been discovered enough that it's not causing further environmental impact to humans or the environment. Examples: removing the tank, contaminated soil, like I said, installing monitoring wells. Bioremediation is a fancy way of saying that we put bugs into the ground and they eat the contamination. Typically that's for petroleum sites. Again, the ultimate goal is a no further action. That is where the state says, you're good, you've checked the boxes, you've done the things, the site no longer poses a problem to human health or the environment. How do we do this and be sustainable? There's you know, an ongoing joke between consultants that the irony of the fact that we're going out to clean up the site, we also create a lot of waste while doing that. So these are the ways that we try to be as sustainable as possible, at least in our company and with the people that we partner with. We try to bike as much as possible. I bike to the office most days. Also, if I have a site in town or within a reasonable distance, I can bike to the site for site visits. Paper reduction is huge. A phase 1 report can easily be 100 pages. We no longer print those out. We don't even offer that to our clients. Instead, we put everything on a thumb drive and or on the cloud for their easy use, and everybody's going paperless these days. Teleconferencing, obviously with COVID, everybody is doing that, but we were doing it before. There's no point in driving downtown to a meeting when you can simply pick up a phone or send an email. Phase 2, on-site sustainability. Like I said, there's a lot of waste. I mean, every time you collect a new sample, you have to put on a new pair of gloves. It requires a lot of water. We try to minimize our travel. If we have a multiple day investigation, instead of scheduling that for 2 different times, we do an overnight travel and visit. We leave, you know, wells open to make sampling easier. Sometimes if we need to, we use maybe a little bit more plastic and in order to save on water. And depending on the site, where we're at, what the availability is, we make that call in the field. Finally, we do also, you know, we try to minimize air pollutants. I don't let the drillers leave the truck on unless they have to. We make sure that we are protecting the land and all the water around us, especially if there's a stream or a creek or the ocean. And then also, you know, professional experience. That really means, obviously, we always want to be as professional as possible, but making sure I've built a really amazing team over the years so that I always have, you know, the best answer that's going to make the project overall, you know, the most efficient with the best answers and protect the environment as much as we can. So a case study, this is a really interesting project. This is over in Southeast Portland. We went out and we found out that it used to be a historical dairy. It also was an automotive repair facility for quite a number of years. There were multiple floor drains. If you look to the right, there was an underground 2,800 gallon waste oil tank. We did some additional research during the phase 1 stage of the project, and we went to the Oregon Historical Society and found out that this used to be an old lake, this property. And when they were backfilling it or filling it in so that they could eventually build what was originally houses and then this structure on it, in the article itself, on this corner of where this project is located, they were throwing in old carriage wagon trains and bricks. Well, bricks are filled with a bunch of nasty stuff, including creosote a lot of the times, and who knows what was on the wagon trains. But it was very interesting to be able to go back to the late 1800s and find the history of the site and realize that, wow, there could be a lot going on. So we did immediately go to a phase 2. Every spot you see where it says B-, that's a boring. That's where we drilled down, like you saw in the previous pictures with a drill. We pulled out a tube, and in some of these spots, we were also able to get groundwater. The big blue circle, that's the plume, i.e. the area of contamination under the ground. So we were able to define the plume both to the west and to the east, or horizontally, and as well as vertically, which is what you have to do to get a no further action. We did minimize, this was a 2-day investigation for this, but we were able to bike to the site. We also were able to minimize waste on the site with our collections. So ultimately, we were able to close the project with practicing as much sustainability practices as we could, best management practices, and we got a closure for the site. So if anybody that you know is purchasing a property, you or somebody you know, please feel free to give me an email or give me a call. Be happy to help, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present to you. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's, if we stick with the original order, next is up Andrea Wallace and Nate Ember from Inc. Built Architecture. I love that name. At Inc. Built Architecture, restoring equity and broadening affordability in the housing system is their key mission and focus. And they're working to challenge the conventions that prevent the fundamental changes our communities need. They implement this daily through their architecture practice, community design and planning efforts, local policy engagement and activism, and their own developments as they strive to demonstrate the best potentials for equitable urban housing and a deeper commitment to building community. Let me cue up.
Hi, I'm Nate. I'm a principal at Inc. Built Architecture here in Portland.
And I'm Andrea, also a principal at Inc. Built Architecture. Inc. Built was started a couple years ago by actually 3 of us. Melinda's not here today, but just as involved. The 3 of us started Inc. Built really with a focus on prioritizing affordable housing, but not just from an affordability standpoint. Where our heart truly lies is actually in sustainable design. That's actually how we all met, and it's really important to us. And so our goal is always to infuse and amplify sustainable design in a way that directly benefits people. We are constantly working on a spectrum from idealistic to realistic. You know, there's a reason why things have been done a certain way all the time. And, you know, 9 times out of 10, there's that reason, and it's because it makes the most sense. It's the most cost-effective way, it's the most simple way to construct something, but there's always that 1 or 2 times out of 10 that you can ask that hard question, you can really take a more idealistic approach, and you can actually make a huge impact in a project. And some of that is, or most of that, is usually from these partnerships that we've been able to have with both service providers and our clients and organizations through grants, and through various means and methods to take a project that would be otherwise a good project into just an exceptional project. It just brings it to the next level. It brings it to a level in which it's more affordable, it's more livable, and it's something that we're really proud of. And one such project that we're working on right now is actually in the Grand with a really great client that Nate's going to talk about.
Yeah, so we just kind of developed a new relationship with this client who asked us to try to figure out how to do affordable housing on this site out in La Grande, and it's a really different kind of place and kind of a rural community, very suburban site, and so it really pushed us to think outside the bounds of sort of the urban environment in Portland that we'd been used to working in. So you know, really is forcing us to think about sustainability and equity and access in a whole new set of ways on a different kind of site, which is exciting. And the client really just kind of gave us an open book to say, you know, we really just want to serve people in this community. We want to serve this affordable housing need, which is pretty immense out there. We know some of the service partners, and we're partnering with the housing authority. So let's, you know, what can we do? What's the best thing that we can do? And so, which is a great approach, and we're getting to work with a very creative project manager who's kind of a dreamer like us, and pushing into that relationship has enabled a lot of the potential, like Andrea talked about, and that's really where innovation comes from, is people pushing ideas back and forth and seeing what is possible. How do we get to a yes on this? So their goals were to serve the larger community because it's in this really kind of isolated place that doesn't have transit access, doesn't have walkability, and doesn't have parks. And then also, how do we bring down the cost for the residents? How do we make sure that they don't have to pay extra energy costs and all these things beyond the affordable rents that we're shooting to provide for them? And then it really is meant to serve a mix of people with some really unique needs out there. People who are coming out of incarceration, out of the foster system, seniors, veterans, workforce needs, all ranging from 30 to 60% area median income. And so what it's become is really a trauma-informed community for all ages.
So what is that? What is a trauma-informed community, and how does that influence how we approach our design process?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, and one that we had to learn a lot about and research, which is great because it's really the area that we're most interested in, right? It's like, how do we meet people where they are and in their unique place, and not just provide a formulaic response of here's some housing.
Yeah, absolutely.
and so it really pushed us to think about the site differently. How do we orient it for views and security and safety, kind of a mix of connection and not isolation, but kind of being able to be away and find peace and privacy. And how do we make sure there's really good solar access and potential to, you know, enjoy the views? There's mountains all around. There's, and then how do we kind of take this large site that also needs a lot of parking, but make sure that we make the most of the site and access to nature, so that your daily experience is able to walk around and, you know, and sit on a bench and under some trees, and or like go over and play on a nature play area, or, you know, hang out with your family and friends in the field by the community building, these kind of things. So we wanted to create this wide variety of spaces and uses. And you know, one principle that we heard about from a planner in South America is, if you design for people who are 8 and people who are 80, you'll come up with a much more kind of equitable approach to design. And I think that's been a really kind of helpful lens as part of this too, is making sure that everybody can access these things. Everybody has what they need to kind of activate their life, to create social connection and safety.
Yeah. And I think that, you know, really hit the nail on the head. I mean, trauma informed design is really about creating spaces for people that they can feel safe and they can get what they need. And sometimes that means maybe a wide open space. Maybe that's what they need at that time, but it also might mean an area of refuge. So creating a site sign, you know, even just the first step of the process is creating something where you can have a variety of spaces and a variety of ways that people can interact with the space, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we've also had a great, the client then, like through an evolving process, that's really kind of how we've come to kind of these design goals. It's just thinking more and more about who are we serving, what do they need. They brought in some public engagement folks who work with seniors, the Center for Public Interest Design at PSU, and they're all kind of working together to actually help us research what the community needs are and how to better respond to those things.
Yeah, so we're focusing so much on what the people need, and kind of this, again, using that term again, that trauma-informed design and community for all ages and all abilities. How does sustainability play into that? It seems like the project might be like trying to take on too much, or is there an easy way to balance? Like, do they speak to each other? Does being able to be trauma-informed also mean that those decisions help support sustainability goals? Because this project is doing a lot.
Yeah, we find them to be mutually reinforcing, I think, as we go through. And, you know, the use of natural materials and the use of sheltering spaces also doubles for sustainability, right? It creates shading and creates the right balance of solar exposure. So all of these things we've, you know, have kind of come together to create this kind of holistic response that also, you know, lends itself to the net zero pursuit that this project is going after, so that we can make really good use of solar and sustainable technology for the systems. And all of that has been kind of a collaborative testing process, which makes us think of another project that we're also working through permitting on right now.
Yeah, our Habitat project, and that one's interesting because, you know, while it wasn't necessarily kind of thought of through the lens of trauma-informed design, it is still a home ownership. It's, you know, and that's a huge component actually. So Habitat for Humanity, they actually sell the homes. This is a long-term home ownership opportunity, and a lot of apartments, affordable housing, that's not the case. And while that housing is needed, apartments are always needed, especially in the housing crisis that we have today. What's missing there? That missing link is that opportunity for home ownership, which is actually a wealth creation. And so one of the ways in which somebody, even like myself, in today's day and age, can create wealth is through real estate investment, through purchasing a home and then being able to pay on that home, and the home value increases, and then being able to sell that for more than what I bought it for, and be able to, you know, do that cycle over until I'm in a place where I'm there permanently. So that piece is missing in a lot of affordable housing, and that's a unique opportunity for that Habitat brings to the table. But a lot of what Nate talked about as far as site design and creating different areas of refuge, areas of kind of communal gathering spaces on the site. That was very, very much thought of for this habitat project as well. And also the solar orientation. We designed all of the homes to be solar ready. And in conjunction with that, actually, Habitat has another unique opportunity, and that is that they do a ton of volunteer labor, and they also get a lot of their materials donated. So where a project maybe wouldn't necessarily always get continuous insulation on the exterior, especially rigid insulation, we're able to do that on this project because they get their insulation donated. So it doesn't add any cost. And now between some envelope upgrades, as well as some kind of pushing on some of the mechanical systems of the building and being solar ready, we are looking at being able to go net zero. We're actually going after the new PSEP grant that's now available in Portland, which is new and great, and we're really optimistic that we're going to be able to kind of lock in some additional grant funding for that project and be able to bring it to net zero, which is great because now the homeowners don't just have to worry about their mortgage and their electricity bill. Their electricity bill goes to nothing. And so now we can really talk about affordability. That's a couple $100s a month that people are going to be saving in energy bills by being able to kind of marry the two together. And that's similar to the Brighton building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we went after the Blue Sky grant.
Yeah. So that project, again, just leveraging kind of funding opportunities in unique ways through partnerships was kind of the key story of it. We were able to evolve beyond kind of starting at LEED certification, getting a solar grant, which then led to leveraging Energy Trust incentive money so that it's now 70% better than Energy Code. And that is just going to result in lower rents to the veterans who are transitioning from homelessness into permanent housing. It's 28 units of modular housing that serves them directly. And then the service providers who are managing the project, Do Good Multnomah, they are able to also leverage community partnerships to get micro grants to furnish the apartments and outfit them so that it's ready to go. It's really exciting, and so it's always just about asking the question, how can we make this happen? Where might we fund this?
Yeah. So one thing that's like really important, if I were to just loop it all back around, is that those unique partnerships are really important. The client relationship is very important. Getting service providers, getting organizations that have the ability to help with some of the grants and things will help drive those projects forward in a way that wouldn't otherwise be able to happen. And then just from a design perspective, really just having that tenacious creativity to push the clients, to allow the clients to push us, to be receptive of that feedback, to like constantly be asking the questions, where can we do better? And where do we just say, hey, you guys have this figured out. Let's just do it that way. Being able to be flexible and yet still always pushing the boundaries, always asking the questions. Ask the questions, because if you don't, you'll never know the answer.
Okay, now we'll shift gears a little bit. Nothing like Dave's show. So let's flip over to Eddie Hill. Eddie is the co-director of the Black Food Sovereignty Coalition, the BFSC, and an innovator and driver of work at the intersection of food justice, food systems improvement, and Black, Indigenous, people of color food economies for the Black and brown people of the Pacific Northwest. That's quite a lot to bear on your shoulders.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of weight on your shoulders. Okay, starting as an organic small-acre farmer apprentice in Olympia, Washington, he continues to promote and demonstrate how community-based food systems, equity, and green workforce development intersect. He has advocated for innovative environmental and food-based programs and business development for the Black community in the Northwest, helping to launch the Rainier Beach Urban Farm and Red Barn Ranch Farms for the Tilth Alliance, completed graduate coursework at the University of Washington's College of Built Environments, and consulting internationally on urban design, equitable development, and urban farm projects as a food system planner. Plus, I've had the privilege of knowing him for a long time now when we worked at eco-districts together. So please virtually clap your hands for Eddie Hill.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Eric. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Really love the invitation and the opportunity to present myself and the firms that I work with and through to do this work. Real quick, I do have a presentation I want to run through. We'll verbalize this, and the assumption is that questions will be sent via email. through Corey or some form of communication system. So again, Edward Hill, and you call me Eddie, and I am an urban planner, trained and practicing in the Pacific Northwest. Been with Seattle for 18 years, and been in Portland and the Portland metro area for 7 years, operating a few consulting firms. One of them is the Black Food Sovereignty Coalition, and I'll sort of reverse engineer my course here. The Black Food Sovereignty Coalition is an outcome of some of the work that we've been doing in the Northwest for the last 15, 18 years around food systems. So I'll do a quick run through about our work and our team, and keep it high and tight today, and introduce potentially some of the topics to you the first time you've talked, maybe heard about or detail about it, and moving forward in terms of green building and green infrastructure and equitable development in cities. We'll talk a bit about that work. Thanks again. Let me share my screen here, and we will go straight to. Okay, so intro with the Black Food Sovereignty Coalition. Where we started on this was 12 years ago, working with in launching a company called Urban Civic Group, and we have Urban Civic Group West. Initially, actually through eco districts and contacts with Rob Bennett and some Eric Corey Freed's friends, got me into situations and in projects around the country before I actually got some credentials here in the Northwest, sort of like Nirvana. I used to go to the Crocodile for $3, $5 and see Nirvana in Seattle, and nobody was really excited until they went somewhere else and then came back. So we sort of had that effect where we got more important as we traveled around the country and the world, and brought that information back to the Pacific Northwest and started getting some traction. So this is our team. With me, we got me, Edward Hill, food systems planning, specifically in design. Ahmed Martin is based out of Miami. He's currently an interim. So we do a lot of interim work. Sort of like, a lot of places like to bring in people of color at the last minute to fix things. And we've sort of built our careers on that and helping be more nimble and tactical and get into rooms that often we have not been introduced to through regular procedures like being hired. So in trying to diversify the field, Ahmed and I and Chris Arango, Ahmed is LEED certified, works in community development and housing, did a lot of urban league work in New Orleans after the hurricanes, and in Pittsburgh. Chris is our legal and development side, and he's got his JD, and then Priti Shah, MPA out of UW, University of Washington, is doing policy development in food systems. So we built this team initially as a friendship, and built on the work that we synthesize through and at these intersections. Some of the work we deliver is traditional engineering, urban planning, policy and practice, legal research preparation, again, lead reviews, certified economic development, finance, and legal. We're also members of the Urban Land Institute in the USGBC. My work specifically, and a lot of the work that we've been doing lately, I say the last 5 years, especially in Portland, in alignment with the equity roadmaps of the Portland Bureau of Sustainability, and pretty much all the city offices have been running equity plans. So a lot of the work for us has been equity at the front, and then folks, sort of like, oh, you're an urban planner. Oh, you're a traditional engineer. Oh, you have the ability to do legal reviews. So we sparked other work that way, and are working to move now with the DEI work and equitable development work overlays with food systems research and food systems transportation improvement. So electrifying the food system. One of the things we have found out during COVID is that the national food system can be stopped very easily, and local food system becomes very important. But when you don't have those systems in place, we run into as everyone has been experiencing the last 7 months, of spotty food delivery and a shift in how food is consumed and produced in the country. Urban Civic Group West, working out here. Other than the East Coast work, Ahmed, it comes out regularly, or not so regularly now, but real estate valuation, investment in transactional advice, asset management, you know, the kind of traditional approaches. And on my side, coming out of the eco districts experience and the really good work we did for a few years globally with that model, was to move into neighborhood development, district infrastructure, food systems, and something I'm going to talk about, some of you may know, EFOD. Looks like I may have got popped out real quick for a moment.
Good.
Am I back?
Well, that was fun. Okay, everybody. Speakers, if you're still in the room, please turn on your cameras. We've lost Eddie due to internet connectivity. There's Andrea. There's Ozzy. There's Nate. I think it's everybody. So if you have questions, you can put them in the chat, or if you're really brave, you could unmute yourself and speak, because why not? Everything else, the internet's crazy today anyway. Let's risk everything. So whatever you want to do, but let's give it a shot. And go from there. And we're over time. If you want to switch over to one of the other SBW events before Webley murders Julie and myself. But if you want to stay on and do questions, we can do that for a few minutes. Any questions? And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I'll put it forth a question. You know, Portland historically has had, let's say, not the best history or past with issues around equity. Yet at the same time, I feel we are doing a genuine effort to try. What do you see as kind of the remaining hurdles and roadblocks that we could maybe address as we're reinventing this new normal of what 2021 in the future could be? And this question's for all of you.
Well, if I would say, I think one of the most one of the missing pieces is that direct community involvement and direct questioning of the community of what exactly are your needs, but it's at the grassroots level, so that we're not just designing systems that we think they need. We totally understand what they need and bring our talents and our abilities of design and creativity into serving that. I just think we just need a better understanding of what the communities need.
Nice.
And I'll add to that, you know, and I agree with what was said now, and that applies really nicely to projects. And when you extend that to inclusion of the internal organizations and the internal project team itself, I just want to add that one of the things that's missing, in my opinion, in the way we go about it today is an equal willingness to learn as we have to teach one another. This equity journey is something all of us are on, no matter what your lived experience is, the color of your skin, your cultural background. We all have something to contribute to it and something to learn from others through it. And I think that humility to be willing to learn, and also the confidence to be able to share your perspective as a learning moment for others, is key.
Yeah, I think those are really great points. I don't know that I can add a lot to that. I think as you know, a firm led by white people, our firm, we really want to learn and, you know, try to do a lot better than we've been doing, and try to ask other white people to figure out how to do that. And it's always hard to put yourself out there and be willing to be wrong, because we probably are wrong most of the time. And we need to obviously like follow our leaders of color in that work, but we also need to do work to fix stuff. So, you know, it just kind of takes that we keep trying, we keep asking questions and listening and doing all those things that Ozzy and Julio just brought up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think adding that intention, I think, you know, as Nate said, sometimes we're wrong, but it's really about asking the question and leading with intention and bringing that from the project, like Julio said, all the way through just deep into the organization level. Like even your hiring practices as an organization, what are the you know, what's the language that you're using in your job posting ads, and how is that inclusive or exclusive to various people of, you know, different races or, you know, gender, or regardless of anything. How do we really focus that intention from a company level all the way through what we practice as a company?
And Andrea and Nate, if I'm correct, I think you both did the building on Division, or is it Clinton, with the lady with the head?
Yeah, that's on Division.
Yeah.
Is Division, and it's like it's before 12th.
Yeah.
Right.
Nice.
Can you tell us a little bit? You showed a picture of it real quick, but can you just tell us a little bit about how that came together? Because it, you know, I was living in Southeast Division at the time, and everybody was, have you seen the lady? Have you seen, you know, created a buzz. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so we actually started that project while we were still working for Solterra. That's how we met, our firm. And that was their headquarter building. And then as that company kind of shifted and we spun off and started our own firm, we finished that project under Inkville as well. So we've worked on it kind of as both, but from start to finish all the way through. And that's a really exciting project. It actually has a lot of, and we weren't able to talk about the details of it, but it does have water reclamation on site. It has a large solar awning. It's got a large green roof, a tree up on the roof. Actually, if you're ever able to go experience the roof deck, it's kind of cool. It's got really beautiful views. But the artwork is by Findak, who is a world-renowned street artist. He's got work throughout the globe, and our previous employer, Brian at Solterra, found his work and kind of created a friendship with Findak and invited him out to do that mural. And it was really inspired to kind of rethink how he typically does his murals. As you can see, it's got a large head of actual living wall for hair. So that's exciting. He was out here during the solar eclipse. So actually the circle around the woman is inspired by the eclipse that was happening while he was painting the wall. And then there's like little elements throughout it as far as what's happening with her robe, the bird on the shoulder that really speaks to Palomar, and kind of some of the kind of cultural pieces of that restaurant and where that was coming from. That's the ground floor tenant. But yeah, it's really unique. And then actually, if you ever are able to go up onto the roof there, he did a second piece a couple years later up on the roof with another woman. She's really beautiful and she's holding butterflies, and the butterflies actually flutter in the wind, which is pretty cool.
All of you are working at these interesting scales, and Jennifer and Eddie, who aren't on the call, that I'm including them in that. And Portland is one of those cities where you kind of have to work at all different scales in order just to, you know, stay busy, really. So you get these big projects, these little projects, and so forth. Does one scale lend itself more to looking at really issues of community engagement, community stakeholders, and equity more than any other, or are you finding opportunities regardless of scale? Because, you know, Ozzy, when I met him, he was working on huge projects that were unfathomable, and then now, you know, this accordion, whatever this gesture is, are you finding it difficult or easy, or how is that going for all of you?
I'll tee it up. I think that there's opportunities at every scale, and you know, leaning on Andrea's message of intentionality, I think that it's key to be intentional at whatever scale you're operating, to be intentional about how equity is going to be addressed in that scope of work. Yeah, I think there's opportunities on all scale. We always have a human impact, and it's just a matter of how far you want to go to it. And every project, I think I want to acknowledge, is an opportunity, not just to build a building, but to contribute to the storyline of a city. And acknowledging that, you know, is part of acknowledging how much the community is gonna live and experience that thing. So I always feel like there's a lot to gain from having community engagement, even when it's just one property, to know how they're gonna interact with that space.
Yeah, I would say that in our work, we would desire probably more engagement than is usually possible. You know, just given like the willingness of a client or whatever to ask those questions, to go kind of gain input or sort of broaden the scope potentially beyond what they were imagining, which is what happens when you engage people and you know, find out really what should be there from a broader perspective. So we definitely cherish the relationships with people who are willing to do that and eager to do that. And then we try to nudge people who maybe haven't thought about that, and, you know, with varied results.
And then Andrea, it looked like you were being robbed by an intruder there or something. Do you want to add to the discussion?
Sure, you might hear them in the background. This is 2020, working from home with kids. But yeah, I would say, you know, ultimately, being able to, like Nate said, ask those questions, to be able to ask those questions at all scales, and getting different people involved, those partnerships that we talked about, you know, partnerships with like Do Good Multnomah are the reason why the Brighton building was able to be what it is today. You know, getting some of the different stakeholders that can help escalate and elevate a project in its intention is really important. And so we're always looking to find those partnerships, whether if it's even just going out to coffee with various people at different organizations that's not even project specific. So that way, when we do have those projects come in the door, we have those relationships built that we can go after, that we can really tap into, because there are so many people in Portland doing really, really, really great work. And we don't have to bear the burden to do it all. Like, we need to work together as a community on every project and at every scale to bring that level of intention, to be able to ask those questions, even if you don't like the answer. Like, ask the question, so that way you know you tried. And like, I think that's really important. And same thing like Nate was just saying, not every client is going to be like gung-ho in the same direction that you are, but if you ask the questions and you get them thinking about it, you actually will get more out of that. Even just if it's a conversation and doesn't end up becoming a reality, there's still something to be learned there.
Well said. Okay, well, on that note, we're way over time. All of the videos we posted on the SBW website, thanks to Webley for offering that up. We'll also put everybody's website information so you can reach out to them and contact them.
And I did, Eric, I did find Eddie. He's lost internet altogether. So he's going to, it's okay. He's going to actually put his presentation as a recording and save those 10 minutes. And then we can put his entire presentation up.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that we lost him. You know, as I said, I had the pleasure of working with him, and he's just wonderful, and the things he's doing that all of you are doing are wonderful. Thank you all for coming. Enjoy the rest of SBW, and hopefully we'll see each other soon in person at an organic gluten-free food truck or something. But otherwise, you all stay safe and be good. Thank you.